Hi, Chantal. Great to meet you. It's an honor to meet you as like our first featured artist who we can pay due tribute on our new homepage. And I'm really glad that you accepted kind of the invitation for a little interview for our readers to get a bit of a kind of like backside story to some of your art. Your art is now featured in the first volume of 2022. And this is an issue on perpetration and perpetrators. And when I thought about the issue, I really had trouble finding imagery which isn't either completely personification of something or usually a very racist imaginary of the perpetrators being somewhere in the global south. So I wanted to avoid kind of these pitfalls. And then I came across your project, which really struck me. So I'm really happy you agreed to contributing your art to this first volume of 2022. I first saw this art on the homepage Histories of Violence, which is kind of a project homepage run by Brad Evans. And I saw that this amazing collaboration between you and Brad has been running for a few years. It's called The State of Disappearance. And it somehow, I don't know, quizzes me a little. So I thought perhaps you could give us a little bit of background, how this came all about. Is there a personal connection to disappearances? What is in the title? You know, just give us a bit of background.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you to W&F Science and Peace. I'm saying this in English because I can't say it in German, but thank you so much. Well, the thing started in 2017, and it's a collaboration, yes, with Brad Evans, which is my husband, and we have this common thing about how to bring aesthetics or the arts in collaboration with politics, or are they separated? That's, I think, the question. You know, is it art separated from politics? And I think we were well. He had length, you know. Projects before we met, and then I started to engage with it from a personal level, and because my country has a big problem which is called forced disappearance, and this is something that I was engaged with before, many years before, and it was shaping my country in a way which I couldn't understand. There were so many things I couldn't understand what was happening. So in 2017-16, I traveled to certain areas. I met certain people, and I started to do a bit of more than I didn't have in mind to create something, really. I think for me, it was more about how do I when I paint, I just do it because it is part of who I am. And so the things that might affect me then end up just being in the canvas, being in my work. So I was so affected by this situation that the process of it started to happen. And then with conversations, these conversations with Brad started to happen as well. And then we thought it was, years later, 1 year later, and we thought it was important to give it a shape as a project. And so we started to work on it. And then later on, a year later, we thought it was important also to invite other academics to participate on this, and that they could give us their reflections and thoughts on what the state of disappearance was for them, the disappearance of human beings, or the disappearance of ecologies, the disappearance of, in a specific, there was no specific really thing to focus on in terms of the object. It was just very broad, really. To me, it was mostly human disappearance, but for them was, this book is going to come next year. Hopefully it will come, and then I would like to do maybe talk about it.
Yeah, great. I mean, the project that you now kind of displayed is much larger or much broader than just the disappearance of people, but also the disappearance of certain ecologies and certain life forms and certain ways of behaving and structuring society, which I found really intriguing to broaden up the idea of disappearance even beyond like the only physical violence. And when I see sorry.
No, sorry to you. What? Sorry. Yeah. You go.
I was just saying, like, when I see your images, just what you described, there's this disappearance of someone and there's this void that he or she leaves behind. And then I imagine you standing in front of this white canvas and trying to explore what this void is, what it rips open, like how it comes about. So I was just wondering, is there anything that you have learned about, this horror of people never coming back and society trying to deal with this through all these years of art that you did around the issue of disappearance?
Yeah, well, really, I haven't. Well, the thing is that the problem, as a political problem, it was huge. So there was no way I could grasp it in just one. I can't even now articulate it into one single thing and just to give one answer. And I think that's precisely the thing with when we reduce, let's say, one thing, as for example, who is the perpetrator, we want to reduce it, and it is not so simple. So when you are working with these subjects, and I have worked with it for 4 or 5 years, I still can't really understand fully what it is. And then the consequences of all that violence, I think that in many moments when I was creating these pieces, I couldn't, it was not about finding answers though. So you do wish to find certain answers, but you realize that that as well as you are part of this thing that you think you are away from it. So you think you are not part of it, but then you realize you are. Then you just feel a bit. You feel guilt. You feel. You feel impotence, which is very. I found lots of impotence with this subject, and then you find terror, but you find yourself being a part of the problem, really.
Yeah.
When you realize, you said, oh, that's happening to somebody else. That's something that has nothing to do with me. I'm not the politician who's doing this. I'm not the whatever person who's doing that. I'm not committing those crimes. But then when you start to talk with people, you start to see a bit more closer the problem. You realize you are part of it as well. And that, I think, is some of the problems I encounter. And so, I really don't have yet an answer for it.
Yeah, but it strongly resonates with things that I kind of get from all the text in this issue number 1 from this year, is that, as you said, we're trying to reduce perpetrators to being this like ultimate evil other that we can place everything into, that we are supposedly not. And what I find really strong in what you just said, but also what I can feel through your images, is this kind of like inner despair and, also this anger, this frustration, but also the systems either of oppression or of chance that allow you or lead you into perpetrating, and that we are also part of these, societal structures. So that we can't, set ourselves aside from those who perpetrate acts, but this is a societal issue, and also in kind of like bringing us together after the act, there is also the need for us to be involved and not just doing this on somebody else. So I feel I kind of really strongly resonate with what you just said about the difficulties of finding perpetrators and what they do within ourselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I think, that the thing about finding, I think, is something that that is maybe just very much to what we do, really, trying to find an answer, trying to find um, who's the one to blame.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly the things that driven us sometimes when we encounter these problems. Who's to blame? Who do I have to find? Who do I have to be? Do revenge, do things like who you end up also as well because of the anger committing then yourself things you don't want to do really.
Mm-hmm.
So that anger just takes you because of an injustice. It could be because of an injustice, and I think on an emotional, well, in the sense of art, I think that's what you're always trying to fight against,
Mm-hmm.
which is that the anger or the sadness or the rage or whatever things that are that you're passing through don't stay there. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to go in there, but you have to liberate yourself
Mm-hmm.
from it. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to pass that. So you can easily say, oh well, you just forget about it. Just forget about just forget about this. But we're not like that, and we shouldn't be like that either. But I guess understand that it just it affects us in various different ways. And how do we find then in that collective, not only individually, but then in the collective, how do we find answers? I think is really it's really difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. Yeah.
But do you think that art has a place in this, in kind of trying to allow us a space in which we can A, ask these questions, and B, kind of go through this process of this journey of transformation in a sense? Because sometimes when I look at some of your pictures, I mean, in the issue they will be all in black and white, but they're even more powerful in color. Then I really feel myself drawn into this kind of like this whirlwind of drawing me into these feelings, these emotions, but also kind of like this moment of healing in kind of like trying to set myself apart from this, but not in denying it, but understanding that this is part of myself and society. But is this a learning journey which is only me, or is this something that you hope to achieve with your art in this sense?
Well, so you I think your sense is right, and I'm surprised as well that that you can sense it that same. So what I'm saying is that I do pass through that process as well. I don't seem to have, again, like I said, answers, but I just have like this giant noise in my head, or in my mind. I just have this thing inside of me, all over me, and it's not something that I could point out, like I was saying at the beginning. I can't just point out, oh, this is what is happening, because if that was the case, then really I don't think I will have a need to create. So I think it's in this situation where there is confusion and not knowing. For example, in this case of the perpetrators, who are the victims, who are what are you? Are you a perpetrator? Are you part of the act that is, being committed, or are you a victim? And if you're the victim, why are you a victim? And so all these questions then just hover around after, a while. And when it comes to pass it to the surfaces, it's just merely a thing of, sometimes I do forget that I am a painter in that moment. Let's say that I am an artist. But what is going on is just simply an act of just leaving everything there. But just because I can't hold it anymore, let's say. But it's just something like an explosion, really, where it happens, and it's just, I can't articulate anything. And I guess that's for me, that's the, obviously when you then step back and think, oh, all right, I'm an artist, right? This is meant to be an artwork. So I think that's very strange. It doesn't happen to me that way, at least to me. Maybe other people does, but to me it doesn't. So when it comes to people seeing the work and saying, should that change my life? Should art help to change the world? Should art should do this or do that? If I express if art is something that it has helped me, and just because I'm an artisan doesn't mean everybody has to be an artist, right? But we definitely need or we are as humans, very sensitive, very sensible, very even in the worst cases, we are that. I think there is no doubt for me of that. We are not just machines. We are not just technical. You are not just data, let's say, and that is good. So I think in that balance, art, that's where art comes alive, and it is something that if we stop seeing art for a moment, just for the sake of this thing I'm trying to explain, if we think of as art being something that is not just the thing that we create, let's say a painting, that's the material thing, is not what it is, the art fully, if you know what I mean, but actually what you have gone through. And this is what I was trying to explain. So if all of these things that are happening and you're affected by it, are part of that process that you have to go through. And we have art, let's say music, we have painting, we have other types of art to try to make sense of it. I think then it is important. Art is important for trying to make things changed in a different way, just because it helps us to have another part of us as humans, another part of us to let us understand life. So if that, so it's not the actual painting of a flower that will change your life, you know what I mean? But it is something behind it, which that's the art to me. I mean, at least that's what art means to me.
Yeah, no, I strongly resonate as well with this kind of transformatory process of doing art and also living through art, even though I only consume your art, but it also does something with me. And I think this is a very powerful process, very much apart from that. I don't even feel the physicality of your paintings because I'm not standing in front of them, but I'm just seeing images of it, and yet it already allows me like a way into this process. When looking at your artworks in the state of disappearance, there are a number of series throughout the years, and I wondered if we could just briefly brush by 2 or 3 of them. Like one which struck me the most is obviously Obscure Beasts. There are, I think, 10 to 15 of them. And like when you first showed me some of these images, I immediately started to see beasts. So they've really popped out of your very abstract art, but I couldn't help seeing a boar and a dragon, and there were all these beasts who really flew at me. Could you give us a bit of a background from like where did this Obscure Beast kind of topic evolve from? What was the state of discussion when you started making the Beast series?
Well, the Obscure Beasts actually does relates a lot with the subject of the magazine, really, this issue, because I was thinking on I think I was at a point where I couldn't distinguish who was doing the violence, and I think I couldn't distinguish where what was that violence coming from, but also in terms of the fights that you can hear, one part blaming the other blaming the other part, and then I think those constant fights. So I guess in Obscure Beasts, I put them in one, let's say in one room. They were in one box, in one space where all those just, well, very abstract, obviously, but all those people were there and confronted in one space. And I think even myself, right? So the subject for those pieces is precisely that of a battle or a dance or a, or not a dance, not in a dance in a nice dance way, but in a dance where it's just very, very full of various rhythms, and those rhythms are part of how life goes through time. I don't know if I'm making sense myself, but what I'm saying is that was the subject, that was the idea. And I think the obscure beasts are part of a thing that, like you say, you can see animals, maybe people can see normally animals, that's what they encounter in loads of, maybe even bulls, the rooster, that's normally associated with evil in certain cultures, and things like those, like the dragon as well, like you mentioned. So there are lots of animals there, or allusions to the animalistic within us. Not as a bad thing, but just more of as a part of a reflection on what, how do we blend? I think I use that a lot in my work anyway. In other paintings and other works I do, I constantly mix that which is the human, the animal, nature, landscapes. And so all of them are kind of blended together. So a human face can also look a bit of a tree face, blended with a tree face, or blended with a animal. But it's just like a way of trying to express to the same abstraction something that could be perceptible for humans, that for the people of myself that I am looking at my work.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I mean, I think even though you questioned yourself if you're making sense, I think it's really important to hear from the artist's voice herself also, kind of like, was it that started this whole thing, even though I can have my own interpretation, but I think that really gives some valuable context. Like something for me, kind of the opposite to the beastly natures of the obscure beasts, is this apparition series. And if I understood this correctly from what Brad and you wrote, it's an idea trying to deal with how can we memorize or memorialize the absence of those things or people who have disappeared, and this kind of constant loss that the world and we, either through violence or through the normal processes of life, have to endure, and that there are constant reminders nonetheless, and they bring us back some haunted memories or something. So I was just curious if there is any context to what started this idea of the apparition series.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was just so vague, because that was the first things I started to do really when I encountered this project. So I think to me the apparitions is like you say, it is as if our ghostly things that things you don't know, things that might be hidden, that are coming with something you are vaguely seeing. So I think the simplicity of it, let's say, which is a paper and a pen and ink, that's it, that's all it is. There is nothing else. Like, for example, in the obscure beast, there's lots of techniques, there's lots of elements, there's lots of color, and but in the apparitions, I think is the simplicity of it, which is the important thing for as technique, let's say, to try to describe something that comes as a reminder, as a part of the not forgetting. So not forgetting that things happen, not forgetting these people, not forgetting this phase, not forgetting the individual. And then all of that, it becomes, starts to become, because it starts with a line, it starts with one person, it starts with one object, it starts with one little thing, but that builds up. And then every line, everything there is just, starts to create an immense thing, and it starts to create a lot of memories of things that that just don't let you. It's hard to, let's say, it's hard to remove the pen from the paper. It's hard to leave that mentally that space once you have then seen in your memory, or even, you know, in front of your face, everything. I think that's very much, yes, of course, it is related to the bodies of the disappeared, of the absences of physically, let's say, people who have lost or have they have somebody that has disappeared. They live with the memory of it, and they really don't disappear, though they seem to disappear. You know, the person who's searching for their children, or their husband, their wife, whatever that is, they still hold loads of they're alive and they're dead. So there are apparitions when you meet them, when you see them. They are like if they were just some kind of ghosts, but they have their own ghosts themselves. They have their own memories of things and things that appear into their minds and heads. So I mean that's mainly part of the idea. With the apparitions.
Thanks a lot, Chantal, for giving us a short insight into like at least two of the series. And I think most of your series can be sneak peeked on your homepage, which we'll definitely link to below this video. And the rest of the series can also be found on the Histories of Violence project. In the beginning, you said that there is a book coming up, either in 22 or 23, which tries to assemble everything that you've been working on all together as the crew. Is there anything that we need to know about the book project coming up, or should we just be excited and just get it when it's out?
You should definitely go and buy it. We're waiting, obviously, because of the pandemic and all the things. Times went a bit behind, but it's very interesting. I'm really grateful with all the academics that have participated, which some of them I know and Brad holds a very lovely relation with all of them. But it's been very important for me to add to this the views of other academics who have the expertise into the various different subjects, and I think they have engaged very, very good with the artwork. Obviously, they're talking about their own subjects, but they are engaging with the artwork, and the artwork will be featured as well in there, as well as a piece that Brad and I wrote called "The Theater of the Disappeared," and which we tried to make a bit more of a poetic allusion to it, to not to talk too much about the obviously there is there's a whole record and stuff of information about the disappeared, but we wanted to approach it in a very much of a like a poetic way, and tried to find something more in it. So anyway, you could be able to find it soon, I hope. But if you want to know more about it, there is my website, or there is the Histories of Violence website, where you can find everything. We'll be posting.
Great. So we'll have to check it out soon. And I think it will be a really nice summary of all that has happened in the Disappearance Project, which has been a great inspiration to me. And I think our issue has I'm just, so grateful that we can feature your art and that we can feature you on the homepage. Chantal, thanks a lot for the time you took for this. It's really also a pleasure trying this kind of like first interview, especially with you now. So let's see if people are going to check it out. And I'm looking forward to working together in the future.
No, thank you so much to you, David. It's a very pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your trust on my work, and also to W&F, like I said already. And it's brilliant that you're doing this, and I hope you do this more with more artists, because I think it's important to keep voices together. So I think your magazine is already doing a really great. Thank you for trusting us, artists, the crises of the world. So thank you.
You're welcome.